Adobe Acrobat Studio, so brand new. Show me all the things PDFs can do.
Do your work with ease and speed.
PDF Spaces is all you need.
Do hours of research in an instant
With key insights from an AI assistant.
Pick a template with a click.
Now your prezzo looks super slick.
Close that deal? Yeah, you won.
Do that, doing that, did that, done. Now you can do that with Acrobat. Now you can do that
with the all-new Acrobat. It's time to do your best work with the all-new Adobe Acrobat Studio.
New Year, same extra value meals at McDonald's. So now get 2 snack wraps, plus fries, and a medium soft drink for just $8.
For limited time only. Prices and participation may vary. Prices may be higher in Hawaii, Alaska, and California, and for delivery.
Welcome back to I Want That Too, the podcast where Disney merch meets Disney history. I'm entertainment writer Jim Hill, and as always, I'm joined by the lovely Lauren Hersey, who's feeling a trifle under the weather at the start of this new year.
I think everybody that I know is feeling a trifle under the weather. Are you seeing that too?
Well, what's interesting is here the weather has been, we keep getting like these 3-inch snowstorms, which then in our driveway turn into ice. Which, by the way, yesterday resulted in this poor UPS driver drove up our driveway and then attempted to turn around and got to the point where he literally had one wheel dangling over the hillside at the and he had to call a tow truck to eventually get him out. Yeah, and I felt so bad. I was literally out there with him with a shovel, and the only stuff I had in the house that had remotely could have put under the tire to even grow, out there with cans of kitty litter, just sort of like, trying to help this poor guy. And, at the same time, do you want to come in the house? Do you want to use the bathroom? And it's like, no, he would not leave his little brown kingdom of his truck, So, nice guy, really nice guy, and I felt really bad for him. But 2 hours later, truck showed up, towed him out of the ditch, and on they went. But Lauren, I think that's the last package I'm going to have delivered at the house till the spring. So, got to be interesting. So.
Yeah, 'tis the season for snow, ice, and the creepy crud that goes around. But something that is a little bit more upbeat is our show for today. We got a lot to cover, so we'll get into it. We're going to be talking about looking ahead to 2026 because, we are in 2026 now, and this is the first show from the last two that is not on a holiday. Happy New Year, by the way. But we're going to talk about what's coming up this year, why it matters, how these anniversaries, movies, and park changes could be quietly shaping Disney merch all year long. Can't wait to get into that. And then later, Jim is going to be telling us a story about a Disney film that didn't work, that ended up ultimately leading to one of the most merch-friendly movies ever made. Is that right?
There we go. What a great tease. That was good. Okay, but before we get to that, to the news and the feature, we have to acknowledge our sponsor. And this episode of I Want That Too is brought to you by our friends at UnlockMagic.com, the same trusted team behind the DVC rental store and the DVC resale market. And since we're spending today looking ahead at what's coming next at Disney, this is a good moment to think about your next trip. And if Disney and Universal are anywhere on your radar in 2026, Unlock Magic is a really smart place to start planning. They offer great deals on theme park tickets, and you get handled by people who are genuinely know Disney travel, the parks, the seasons, and how to help you get the most out of your visit without overpaying. So if you're thinking, starting to think, okay, maybe this is the year we finally go, head to UnlockMagic.com to grab the best ticket deals and make that future trip just a little more magical. So, all right. And now the news.
Wait, Jim,
Yeah.
Jim, before we get to the news, I have to say, so Eric and I are like working on planning our 2026 travel right now. And fingers crossed, we're hoping to get out to Disneyland as a family in March and maybe Paris, knock on wood. But we are 99% sure, more than that, we're going to get our tickets through Unlocked Magic because I think for our 4 days, it's going to save us almost $300.
Wow. And
Yeah.
okay.
So I had to say that.
Okay. And did you just say California March? Is that correct? Or
Yes, California March, maybe Paris in July. I gotta get the March trip booked first, and then we're gonna be moving on to the next
okay,
one.
well, let me know when you lock in on March because March is when Alice's birthday is, and I always look for an
Ooh.
excuse to go to California and see her. And if you guys are out there as well, maybe we can finally do. We can finally get Eric to the Universal Hollywood.
Heck yes. All right, now, so on to the news.
Okay.
All right. So since this is our first real New Year's episode, last one's on New Year's Day, we wanted to do something a little bit different and look ahead because 2026 is really shaping up to be a big year for Disney merch because they got a lot going on.
Yeah, they really do. And this time around, folks, it's not just one anniversary like last year. Big one. Disneyland 70th. This year, it's a stack of them. The kind that Disney doesn't necessarily always announce loudly, but definitely makes plans around.
Yeah, so I was just going to do a quick roll call of some of the big milestones that are coming in 2026 to set the table for all the things that we should be paying attention to.
Okay. And to just keep people a sense of how truly stacked 2026 is. Let's just do a quick lightning round of some of the more notable anniversaries on the calendar.
All right, so what do we have first, Jim?
Well, this one, oh boy, it makes me feel old. High School Musical turns 20 this year.
Okay, so that one makes me really, really, really sad and feel old. But that was the first movie that set the table for the all of the Descendants and Zombies and all of those movies that we love today, right?
Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie, it's cheesy fun. I enjoyed that one quite a bit. We're all in this together, okay? Now, March 4th, Zootopia hit the original Zootopia hits its 10-year anniversary.
Yeah, and good timing with, the Zootopia 2 and the major success that's having. I would not have said 10 years for that one, but that's a big one.
Okay, we jump ahead to March 24th. Hannah Montana, that also is 20 years this year?
Yeah, and isn't Miley Cyrus coming back?
Yeah.
To reprise her role as Hannah Montana?
I have heard something to that effect. I also, again, I don't know if you saw the story recently with Ms. Cyrus about how, I guess she took a gig to perform at the Academy Awards recently just so she could then pitch some of the filmmakers there the opportunity to write original songs. So Ms. Cyrus is growing up. And as we continue this can't be 20 years old, but June 9th, Cars, the Cars franchise, the very first Cars movie came out, 20 years ago.
Yep, that's another, I'm very much having trouble, wrapping my mind around these anniversaries.
Oh, yeah.
So a couple more, right?
There we go.
A couple more big ones.
Okay, July 28th, Disney's hand-drawn version of Alice in Wonderland, that turned 75.
Makes sense with the Sabrina Carpenter reimagining coming, right, with Universal. It's a big one.
And then November 23rd of this year, Moana hits 10 years. A decade of how far I'll go.
Yeah, so all big ones. And I mean, one that is sticking out to me for January is 101 Dalmatians is turning 65.
Yeah, and what's fascinating about that one, in fact, we'll talk a bit about that. That franchise will be continuing because do you remember the Emma Stone Cruella, the prequel to 101 Dalmatians from 2021?
Yes, I actually really, really, really loved that movie, and I've been waiting. So it's Cruella 2 is back in development. Are we getting that movie this year or sometime soon?
Emma, as recently of 2024. I mean, the interesting thing is, right after the movie came out in 2021, it was announced the screenwriter was coming back, Emma was coming back, the director was coming back. And as soon as recently as 2024, Emma revealed that, yeah, we're working on it. It's a work in progress, and it will shoot sooner rather than later. But again, this is the Disney company, folks, and as we'll touch on in the feature, there's a number of sequels to older franchises that are suddenly getting greenlit.
But I'm thinking, with this one, though, I just have to say, from a merch perspective, it has to do really well because just like the classic black and white polka dots, all of that. And then with Disney, at least Disney World, leaning so heavily into the villains, Cruella is one of the, 3 featured villains in the new villain show at Hollywood Studios. And as far as personality goes, if Cruella DeVille was applying for a job, she would be the personality hire when it comes to villains. So that would make sense to get that, out sooner than later. But any other big anniversaries coming up?
Well, yeah, that 2026 Pixar animation turns 40.
That timing does not make sense to me, though. How do we get 40 years?
Well, now you have to remember that Pixar, the studio, before we got the features, they were doing commercials, they were doing animated shorts, films like, for example, Tin Toy, the very first animated feature to CG animated feature to win an Academy Award in 1988. So this is the physical company getting up out of the ground rather than the films. But still significant, still worth noting. And again, started off life as a spin-off of Lucasfilm. So
yeah, I do remember you talking about the Tin Toy and how that kind of even inspired the first iteration of Toy Story. But then I think I read somewhere that Disney and Pixar coming together, that anniversary is also this year, later in the year, maybe 20, 25 years.
You are
20.
You are correct. That is the deal. That was they I want to say it was 1991. They signed the actual deal that eventually led to Toy Story. But yeah, that in fact it was on the heels of Tin Toy winning the Academy Award that Disney approached Pixar and began talking with them about we should work together. So, but again, so in 2026. We're talking about the founding of Pixar, but at the same time, in 2026, we're also celebrating, when, Disney and Pixar got together, when Peanut Butter and Jelly got together and made a sandwich we all have really been enjoying for quite some time now.
Do you think I'm just, connecting dots here. Do you think the timing of them releasing Toy Story 5 has anything to do with the anniversary of them kind of working together that's later in the summer?
I don't honestly know.
And that's the original movie. Remember the crime scene investigations?
There we go.
These are the random things I think about.
Okay.
I mean, you never know.
Okay.
I feel like Disney's always kind of given us those breadcrumbs for us to look for.
Could be. Well, I do know that Mr. Taylor the gentleman I do fine tuning with, he was just alluding to the fact that he's going to be going up to Emeryville fairly shortly. They're going to do press for Hoppers, but later this spring they'll be doing the exact same thing for Toy Story 5. So, tell you what, I'll hand Drew that question and see if we can get an answer. To the effect of
do it.
why
And then report
this
back.
year. Okay.
All right, and then the last anniversary is we're not talking like Disney 70th, Disneyland 70th, but DCA is turning 25, right?
Yes, and Lauren, I was there for the opening.
Do you have the shirt? I was there.
Well, we have a lot of stuff. Nancy and I went out. Disney was very gracious to put us up for the opening, and I remember the morning that the park opened. I had an interview with Marty Sklar, the head of Walt Disney Imagineering, and I was Marty's first interview of the day. And so I was up at 4 to be in the park to talk with Marty at 4:30. And you have to remember that he's up that early because he's also talking with folks on the East Coast, that this is the morning, and so he was doing segments with all sorts of morning shows around the country. And so, and I flat out asked him, because we're both exhausted, we're both drinking our terrible coffee. And I said, okay, it's opening day. If you had one thing to change, what would you do differently? And Marty actually thought there for a moment and said, I'd have built a third Soaring Theater, and which is so funny because that's what we finally got when they did it at Epcot. They had the land, they had the opportunity. Said, yeah, I would have built a third theater. I love that. That and you would also have appreciated. And again, given this is a Disney merch show, Marty had this cap that had so many pins on it, from all of his travels around the world to various Disney parks. I was actually worried about it caving in his skull. It was that heavy with that many pins, but all these wonderful cloisonne pins that he'd collected over the years.
I love it. See, he's one. Unfortunately, but was one of us.
He was.
All right, so that was a lot of IP franchise anniversaries, but we all know that Disney kind of has a stacked year for movies, and that drives a lot of the merch sales. So movies coming out in 2026. Last week, I think we talked about Star Wars, The Mandalorian and Grogu's coming to theaters?
Yes. Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni. This one, this is huge, folks. This is Star Wars headed back to theaters and characters you want to see. So, but again, arrives in June, and what's interesting is the parks will be supporting this. You've heard about this, Lauren, right? That how they're going to be swapping out the ride film for Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run. And what's interesting is, how the engineer role in Millennium Falcon is the worst one on the show.
Yeah, you just got to hit the button.
Right. Okay. Now, I'm just going to tell you right up front, it is now going to become the most desirable job on the. You get to take care of Grogu. You're the one who's entertaining him and feeding him and preventing him from doing bad things while the mission is going on. So, but yeah, I can't wait to see this film, and I can't wait to see that new version of Millennium Falcon, Smuggler's Run.
All right, so we got Lucasfilm represented, and then we're moving to Disney. We're going to get the live action Moana this year, right? With the 10-year anniversary of the animated film.
Yeah, and we've had we've had a teaser trailer, right? I want to say we have.
Uh-huh.
But again,
Yes.
it's one of these teaser trailers where it seems like every shot in it is shot from 300 feet away. So it's like...
Yeah, and I don't think I saw The Rock in it.
Well, no, that's it exactly. You know, and I want to say at the very end, I want to say you get a close-up of the young woman who's playing the title character. But yeah, I mean, boy, that trailer put the T's in teaser trailer.
It did. Yeah, it's pretty loose, but that's coming. Okay, so now we have Disney represented. And then the big one for Pixar, which we've talked about, is Toy Story 5, and that merch will be flourishing all year long.
And speaking of flourishing, I think we've talked about this before, because I'm going into Toy Story 5. I have concerns, because, I mean, I loved Toy Story 3. I thought it was a wonderful film. I liked Toy Story 4. It had a lot of characters. It went in a lot of different directions. But I flat out loved the end of the movie, the whole Buzz, she'll be fine. Bonnie will be fine. And again, I'm willing to forgive anything if you end well. If you end well, if you end strong, it's like, okay, I'm on board. All previous reservations. But it's just this whole notion of Toy Story 5. And based on the trailer, we know that Woody somehow gets back into, Bonnie's, bedroom. And it's like, oh, don't tell me you're going to undo his happy ending with Bo Peep. But I will say this, and again, this is from Mr. Taylor, who's heard from his friends at Pixar, and says, first of all, this film is written and directed by Andrew Stanton, who's been part of every single Toy Story movie right from the beginning, and what Drew is telling me is like, what he's hearing from people from Pixar is like, oh my God, this is such a great movie, that don't worry about it. It's exactly what you want from a Toy Story movie. You're back with your favorite characters. You'll have all the feels. So it's, long story short, it means we're all going to be buying a lot of Toy Story merchandise this summer, folks. Just putting it out there.
I hope so. All right. So we talked Anniversaries, we talked movies, but the last big piece of the puzzle for 2026 is obviously the parks. And that's what we like to talk about around here. So we talked about the new Smuggler's Run, the overlay. The one that I am particularly very excited about, especially since Paris may be on the radar for the Herseys this year, is that the Walt Disney Studios Park is officially becoming Disney Adventure World this year, right?
Yeah, and how cool for you guys to go after that park gets reimagined. And just because that's the interesting thing. This is kind of the California adventure experience all over again, only over in France, where a park that's built kind of on the cheap, and they keep throwing new stuff at it, and then finally it's all right. We got to roll the dice. We got to spend a lot of money. We got to do big things. For example, how at DCA they added Cars Land, and in this case they've got their Frozen Land, and soon, their, Lion King Flume Ride.
Did you see that Flume Ride? Like, why didn't they do that in Orlando? It looks sweet.
Well, I mean, the interesting thing is, there is this Animal Kingdom themed theme park. And, I mean, should that ride prove to be successful, it could potentially travel, I'm just saying.
That would be incredible. I've been watching a lot of videos, as you can imagine, and I was like, wow. Like, the concept art and everything is just showstopper.
No. I mean, I'm really excited for you and Eric and the family to get over there to Paris, not only to see the original Disneyland Paris, which many people have said is the most beautiful of the Disney parks, but also, again, what they've done in transforming. All right, let me get the name right. Walt Disney Studios Park in Paris to just plain old Disney Adventure World.
Yep. So excited to see that. And, speaking of excitement, I got to mention the Rock and Roller Coaster retheme. I'm assuming you're excited with the Muppets coming to town.
Well, not only that, there's definitely kind of a 1-2 punch thing going on. I don't know if you've seen the amount of advertising that Disney is already doing for the Sabrina Carpenter Muppet Show special.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and what's interesting is they are leaning heavily into the look and the feel and the style of the original Muppet Show. And who knows? The irony here may be that, we lost Muppet Vision 3D, and, that was the last thing that Jim Henson worked on. But on the other hand, if this is the year where the Muppets, have a hit thrill ride at a Disney theme park and their TV show comes back, I'll take that. Again, we're back to Toy Story 4. Anything that ends strongly, I'm behind.
Right. So there's a lot going on, a lot of rethemes, everything happening, but oftentimes that leads to more merch. So if you're a collector, you're probably as excited as we are. But coming up after the break, Jim is going to be telling us about something that probably wasn't super exciting, a ride a movie that did not do very well, that led to another one that kind of cleaned up and did gangbusters, right?
That is true. But before we do that, there's this.
Well, the holidays have come and gone once again, but if you've forgotten to get that special someone in your life a gift, well, Mint Mobile is extending their holiday offer of half off unlimited wireless. So here's the idea. You get it now, you call it an early present for next year. What do you have to lose? Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Limited time 50% off regular price for new customers. Upfront payment required. $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan. Taxes and fees extra. Speeds may slow after 50 gigabytes per month when network is busy. See terms.
And we're back. Lauren, we kind of alluded to this at the top of the show, but I don't know if you actually saw this story, but producer Jerry Bruckheimer has confirmed that Pirates of the Caribbean 6 is definitely in the works. And in fact, he framed this new installment as saying that it would feature new actors as well as old favorites. And get a lot of folks are like, Johnny Depp, Jeffrey Rush, who are we going to see? Ooh, now, I bring that up because, face it, we are just a couple of months after Tron Ares came out in theaters. Didn't exactly set the world on fire. But, we have, this is still a Disney company that, circles back on older films and does additional chapters. And again, we were just talking about Pirates, but last year we learned that Linda Wolverton, the screenwriter of the original Beauty and the Beast, is working on a screenplay for Maleficent 3. And Lauren, I guess what I just find fascinating about this is that the original, the film that introduced Maleficent to the world, Sleeping Beauty, arrived in theaters 66 years ago this month. And we were just talking about Emma Stone and Cruella and the potential Cruella 2. And for me, what's fascinating is that, there never would have been 101 Dalmatians, the animated 101 Dalmatians, and which of course led to Emma Stone's Cruella and hopefully the soon-to-be-seen Cruella 2. That never would have happened if Sleeping Beauty hadn't bombed at the box office. Because a lot of people don't remember this, but the original Dodie Smith book, 101 Dalmatians, came out in 1956, and Disney Productions optioned the television rights to the book. They weren't going to do a movie. They were going to do like 2 episodes of, the Disney television show on ABC, and somebody was going to go out and hire a whole lot of Dalmatians. But in order to tell the story properly or learn, we have to look back to the origins of Sleeping Beauty. And before we get started here, your thoughts. What do you think of Disney's Sleeping Beauty?
Well, it's a Disney princess. So, I did, because obviously I wasn't around for when it was originally released. But, I mean, looking back on it, I think it was fine. I mean, I don't know.
I just want to point out here, folks.
I mean, Maleficent was is amazing. Love the villain.
There we go. See, thank you. You literally, before I even got started here, you have delivered solidly on my argument. You're tepid. It was fine. It was good. But Maleficent, she was amazing. I mean, literally, that's the theme of today's show. I'm just, thank you, Lauren. Great object list.
You're welcome.
Okay. All right. Well, to start things off, folks, we got to pivot to the 1950s. Interesting time at Disney Studios, especially on the animation side of the house, where in rapid succession, they put 4 feature-length animated films out into theaters. There's Cinderella in March of 1950. There's Alice in Wonderland in July of 51. Peter Pan in March of 53. And then finally Lady and the Tramp in June of 55. But while all of this is going on, Lauren, that's in the foreground. In the background, animators and artists at Disney Studios are working on the big movie, the very important animated feature, which is Sleeping Beauty. In fact, as early as November of 1950, the Los Angeles Times reports that Disney is working on an animated version of Sleeping Beauty. Mind you, this is to be the follow-up to the studio's hugely successful hand-drawn version of Cinderella. But as you just mentioned, Lauren, that's Sleeping Beauty princess movie. But here's the thing. Walt is like, this is my 3rd princess movie. And so it's like, I don't want to do what I did with Cinderella. I don't want to do what I did with Snow White. I want to do something different. But at the same time, Walt is eyeballing television and trying to figure out, well, what are we going to do about that new form of entertainment? And to give Walt credit, he realized, well, the easiest way to learn about television is to make television. So for Christmas Day 1950, he makes an hour-long TV special, 1 Hour in Wonderland, which, by the way, Lauren, is basically an hour-long promotional vehicle for Alice in Wonderland, which will be arriving in theaters 7 months later, July of 51. But Walt uses this holiday special, which is broadcast on NBC, as a way to learn what works on television and what doesn't. And the beauty part is, Walt doesn't even have to spend a dime of his own money to do this, because he convinces Coca-Cola to cover the cost of this entire thing. And now, Disney Company today, when they talk about Walt's entry into television production, they're very quick to point to 1 Hour in Wonderland. Yeah, the narrative they're trying to get across is Walt's this brave pioneer, how when all of the other movie moguls out in Hollywood, they were flat out terrified of television. Here's Walt boldly embracing this new medium. All right, here's the thing, folks. It takes Walt a full year before he does another TV show. And by the way, Lauren, that's the Walt Disney Christmas Show, which airs on CBS, not NBC. And this time around, this holiday special is sponsored by Johnson & Johnson rather than Coca-Cola. But the Walt Disney Christmas Show is basically, 1 Hour in Wonderland 2. The only difference is it's not promoting Alice in Wonderland this time around. It's promoting Peter Pan and the upcoming re-release of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, which will be out in theaters February of 52. But, when it takes you a full year to produce an additional hour of television, Lauren, you're not a brave pioneer. You're a guy who's sticking your toe in the water and thinking, maybe I'll do television production. But anyway, now if we double back to Sleeping Beauty, by 52, Disney's got this full film up on storyboards, but Walt actually rejects the initial take on this material because he's looking at it and it's like, it's too close to Snow White and Cinderella. This is the third princess. I want this movie to be different, special, important. Interesting bend of the story because Walt puts Sleeping Beauty into turnaround. Suddenly the artists at Disney Studios don't have anything to work on. But Walt goes, well, hang on. I got this idea from the 30s. I've always wanted to do this, a movie that's told from the point of view of dogs, and which, becomes Lady and the Tramp. Which arrives in theater, gets out in theaters June of 55, 1 month before Disneyland opens, by the way, and does great business. Now, Lauren, what's significant about Lady and the Tramp is it is the first animated feature to be done in CinemaScope. And by the way, they did that for a very specific reason. Thinking in Hollywood back then was, television with its big, enormous 12-inch screen and its black and white picture, there's no way that can compete with a film that's been shot in CinemaScope and in Technicolor. So from my way of thinking, Lauren, this is actually proof that Walt isn't necessarily the big supporter of television that the Disney company is so often trying, to make him out to be in the 50s. That, the fact that he actually decided to make Lady and the Tramp in CinemaScope proves as late as the mid-50s, Disney is still trying to play both sides of the street, dabble in television production while at the same time still trying to protect theatrical release films, make movies seem like the more important form of media. But we'll get to how that idea, the big format, impacts Sleeping Beauty in a moment. But first, this.
Prime's exclusive wildcard playoff game is Saturday night. Jordan Love and the Packers take on Caleb Williams and the Bears. Not a Prime member? Sign up for a 30-day free trial to stream the game.
That's going to be caught for the touchdown.
NFC North rivals square off in the latest chapter of the NFL's oldest feud. The Packers and Bears in Prime's exclusive wildcard playoff game. Saturday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Only on Prime. Sign up for a 30-day free trial today. Restrictions apply. See Amazon.com/Amazon Prime for details.
Why do growing businesses love working in Slack? Let's ask Christy at Ari Bikes.
Running things in Slack saves me so much time.
AI summaries save 97 minutes per week. What say you, Rox from Gosney?
Slack helps us build community, it helps us build connection.
Your partners, vendors and customers all in one place. Take us on home, Ashley from Caraway.
If we didn't have Slack tomorrow, I would explode.
Well, let's not let that happen. Visit slack.com/podcast to get 50% off Slack Business Plus.
I had that dream again. My small business needs to hire, but I don't use LinkedIn and I hire wrong. So our orders get all backed up. We're drowning in paperwork, then actually drowning, careless fighting off sharks with a stapler, and pirates are pillaging the office copier, and then I wake up.
Don't let hiring nightmares ruin your dreams. LinkedIn Jobs' new AI assistant goes beyond the resume, using unique insights to deliver a smarter shortlist. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/quality. Start hiring today with LinkedIn.
And we're back. All right. So earlier on in today's feature, I put Lauren on the spot, and I apologize for that. But I also have a confession to make myself, folks. I am not a fan of Sleeping Beauty.
See, now that you said it, I would just say that. I didn't want to.
Well, all right. Well, let me get further out on this limb. Look, I understand. I appreciate the artistry and ambition of this film. But and like Lauren, I look at Maleficent and I get why, even today, here's Disney putting this character in live action films with Angelina Jolie. Because the Mistress of All Evil is the very best thing in that entire movie. She's got style, she's got sass. Whenever Maleficent is on screen, Sleeping Beauty is actually an entertaining movie, whereas the title character, Princess Aurora, Briar, that's why I always kind of intrigued by the notion of the movie's called Sleeping Beauty, because it's actually the audience that goes to sleep. Because and here's the reason. You look at the film today and it's like Princess Aurora, Briar Rose, isn't an active participant in her own story. She just kind of wanders through and things happen to her. I mean, think about it. She only meets Prince Philip because he initiates the meeting. He surprises her. Even with Maleficent hypnotizes her, makes her hit, her finger on the spindle. And then for the next half hour of the movie, she's flat on her back, dead asleep in bed. And then the good fairies. I mean, come on. Compared to the seven dwarves, Doc, Happy, Sleepy, you get it. Flora, Fauna, and Merryweather have interchangeable personalities. I mean, if it weren't for that make it blue, make it pink thing, there's nothing there, and God, the royals.
They should have taken a page out of Blue Fairy's book.
There we go. But no, King Stephen, King Hubert, Queen Leah, even Prince Philip, they're like cottage cheese with feet. Anyway, by 1954, production is underway on Sleeping Beauty. And in fact, it got started in July of 53. And Walt already knows that this project is in trouble. That, he's looking at it and it's like, the story's blah. The characters, the people, this thing, with the exception of Maleficent and the goons, are all bland. And it's just sort of like, and so, Walt now decides, all right, here's what's going to save us. Spectacle. And again, want to remind you, we were just talking about how Lady and the Tramp was shot in CinemaScope. And the movie-going public seemed to really respond to that. And in fact, this is going to kind of startle you, Lauren, but Lady and the Tramp wound up being the top-grossing domestic film for all of 1955. It beat out cinematic classics like The 70 Rich and Mr. Roberts. So Walt looks at that box office and thinks, all right, Sleeping Beauty. If I make this thing a spectacle, well, then maybe people will overlook the story flaws. They'll be so caught up in how great this animated feature looks, they won't realize that the characters, with the exception of Maleficent, are all boring. So Walt then rolls the dice in a big way. When I'd say big, I mean that Sleeping Beauty was shot in Super Technorama, which is the super wide screen 70 millimeter format. And then, to really take advantage of this specific film format, Walt then decides that the creative conceit behind Disney's Sleeping Beauty will be that, well, the movie looks like a huge moving medieval tapestry. With rich colors and highly stylized character design. And I also should mention that Sleeping Beauty songs, which are written and composed by Disney house composer George Bruns, are all based on numbers from Tchaikovsky's Sleeping Beauty ballet from 1889. A big era for pop hits. And they're all recorded in 6-channel stereo. So now, Lauren, Sleeping Beauty is ambitious. It's arty. The sort of thing you'd never see on TV. The only way you see it, you got to go to theaters and see it on the big screen. I just want to remind folks here that the last time that Walt made an animated feature that was ambitious and arty and featured classical music, that was Fantasia. which when it was released to theaters in November of 1940, using an early version of stereo, Fantasound, it lost a ton of money, more than $1 million. But Walt, he convinces himself that no, Sleeping Beauty not going to be Fantasia 2. I mean, it's the third princess movie, and look how much
princess in it, though.
It's got a princess in a movie, and look how much money Snow White and Cinderella made. So Disney Studios soldiers on with production of Sleeping Beauty. The only problem with making a movie that's supposed to look like a moving tapestry is a film with that sort of art design takes a long time to produce, a long time. Which is why Sleeping Beauty, which remember, originally supposed to open in theaters, same time that Lady and the Tramp did, June of 55, first going to open February 57. But as production falls behind, no. Christmas Day, 57. And then when it becomes obvious, well, we're not going to make that one either. Christmas Day, 1958. And it's somewhere along the line here, Walt finally gets to see the complete Sleeping Beauty in its final form. And it's like, oh... I can't. I can't send that out into theaters as our big holiday release. They'll kill us. And Lauren, want to stress here, by this point, Disney Studios has spent $6 million on Sleeping Beauty. That is more money than Walt has ever spent on any movie that his studio has ever produced up until that time. And by the way, at this point, he's throwing money at Sleeping Beauty with the hope of, all right, maybe one more effect. Maybe one more scene of people moving slowly into a castle. Maybe that'll turn it around. That'll make this movie work. And not the case. And Walt, the lights come up in the screening room and it's like, oh, it's pretty to look at. But as a piece of entertainment, it's inert, it says so much about Sleeping Beauty that the movie is only 75 minutes long and it doesn't feel like it's 75 minutes long, It's a good 3 hours. But the kicker, the absolute kicker is that Walt knew, the Titanic was headed for the iceberg when they began to do test screenings on the Disney lot. And, this great story about how they recruit this audience full of kids and they're on the lot. They're in their state-of-the-art, movie theater and they're this beautiful 70 millimeter film with its 6-channel stereo. And 20 minutes into the movie, the kids are getting up and wandering around the theater looking for something to do because they are so bored by what's going on up on the big screen. It's just sort of like, oh, no. But what's fascinating about this, and again, just remember, you're listening to a Disney merch show here, folks. Walt still, the most important word in the phrase show business is business, allowed a full retail program to be put together, for Sleeping Beauty. Because again, well, it's a princess movie. They let princesses get some dolls out there. But again, on the other hand, Walt, as we mentioned earlier, just in looking at the film, I cannot make this our holiday release. So he pushes it outside of the holiday season, where there are, obviously are huge expectations for a film. They hold the premiere in January 59. And then they send it out wide into North American theaters in the next month, February 59. And how bad did it get, Lauren? Sleeping Beauty lost so much money that Walt Disney Productions, in its next annual report for that fiscal year, actually had to report a loss to shareholders. And Lauren, this is after Disneyland is open, and that thing down in Anaheim is basically a cash machine. It just made money hand over fist for Disney, but even Disneyland couldn't compensate for how much money Sleeping Beauty lost the company.
But she still got a castle?
She's got a castle. But speaking of, people, having a place to live, things got especially dire for the artists and animators at Disney Studios 3 months after Sleeping Beauty went out into theaters, when there's no other way to sugarcoat this, Lauren. The studio lays off 3/4 of the staff with the notion of, we can't make another movie like that. In fact, we have to figure out, what sort of movies, full-length animated features is Disney making these days, because that was such a huge misfire. And how that gets us to the hand-drawn 101 Dalmatian, and then, it's live-action prequels like Cruella, and the wonderful live-action John Hughes versions of 101 Dalmatians, where Glenn Close clearly has so much fun playing Cruella. But we'll talk about that on next week's edition of I Want That Too.
Okay, Jim, on that note, leaving us on the cliffhanger, I think that it's time for us to close up shop for today.
Yeah, and again, come back, though. It's a good story. By the way, if you want to keep up with everything happening across the Jim Hill Media Podcast Network, please follow us on social, and don't forget to check out our Patreon for bonus shows and early access.
Yes, and we absolutely love to hear from you. Send us your ideas for 2026. You can find Jim at jimhillmedia.com, or you can find me at laurenhersey.com.
Oh, and if you like the show, leave us a quick rating or review. It helps other Disney fans find I Want That Too.
All right, Jim, that does it for today's episode. Everybody, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on I Want That Too.